If you were anything like me as a kid, there's a good chance that you grew up playing a lot of Nintendo games, like the ongoing series of Super Mario, which you probably played with family, or you may have been given the chance to play Wii Sports as a kid, which was one of the best experiences you've had in your life. If you were to ask me about my favorite games growing up, these would definitely be on my list, along with the Legend of Zelda series. But one recent favorite that has stolen a massive amount of my attention is Splatoon, specifically Splatoon 3, which was released back in 2015, less than a decade ago. If this is the first time you've ever heard me mention this game, we definitely do not talk enough. Or this is your first time on my channel, and to you I say welcome. But a brief description of this game for you is that Splatoon is a 4v4 third-person shooter game that takes place on a post-apocalyptic Earth where sea life has evolved to live on the surface. You play as an Inkling or Octoling of choice, which are evolutions of squids and octopuses, and you use the ink that they produce in their bodies to attack opponents in order to win the games they play. There's a lot more lore to this basic premise, but more on that for another video. Based on that description alone, it should already sound like a wild game. But why should you play it? Why does it matter if you get to experience it or not? Why should you play it over other shooter games? Well, a couple of reasons are of its variety of options that benefit both casual and competitive players, and its overall design that stands out from other games, which all contribute to a unique experience to each person. Hi, I'm Kasonic, and this is why I love Splatoon. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. First off, the variety and mechanics the game is set up on already set it apart. At the start of the game, you are given customization options for your in-game character with 4 different styles, 9 different skin tones, 21 different eye colors, 24 different hairstyles, 4 different eyebrows, and 11 styles of legwear, not to mention the hundreds of gear pieces available in the game for purchase. This is already enough to set it apart from other titles, because it allows the player to basically create their own characters that are significantly different in design from everyone else's, which can either be a reflection of themselves put into this virtual world, or an original character with their own backstory. This gives a unique experience to each player, as well as a unique identity for them in the game itself. With variety in mechanics, it only gets better, since as of releasing this video, Splatoon 3 has 110 main weapons spread across 11 weapon classes, which range from regular water guns to buckets to blades. Each weapon is assigned 1 out of 12 sub-weapons like bombs and beacons, and 1 out of 20 special weapons like a giant hammer or a jetpack, for example. The sheer variety of weapons in this game is already a big plus, since each one has strengths and weaknesses that provide the player with a unique advantage every game. But the fact that these weapons are not attached to the character you play as creates a unique combination of assets and looks for each player. One last mechanical advantage that Splatoon 3 has over other shooter games is the Inklings and Octolings' ability to transform into the actual cephalopods they are based on and swim through the ink that they use to paint onto the ground. While swimming through this ink, you are able to refill your tank much faster, as well as recover any damage dealt in battle. Swimming is also much faster than the default kid form that you use. This incentivizes you to use the swim mode instead of just running everywhere, and will therefore create a gameplay loop that can keep the player on their toes and the game fast-paced without the need of having to constantly stop to reload ammo. These mechanics allow variety and uniqueness to the player experience compared to other shooters by giving them a lot of options and advantages while not having those options locked to any one player, and still keeping the gameplay exciting. You know what else helps with how fast-paced the game is? The game modes. Splatoon 3, at the time of releasing this, has 5 base modes that you can play in the game. Turf War, where whoever paints the map the most wins the game, Splat Zones, where you have to maintain paint control on a specific area of the map, Rainmaker, where you carry a slow but powerful weapon to the end goal, Tower Control, where you have to move a tower towards the enemy base to win, and finally Clam Blitz, where you collect clams to score into the enemy team's basket. The way these modes are designed provides a wide variety of enjoyment to the player base. Don't like to sweat in games for a win? Play the more casual mode of Turf War. It's not ranked, so you can play for fun or even for practice, as there aren't any consequences to losing. This rule doesn't make the mode any better than the rest though, since you will literally lose for the stupidest reasons in the last 20 seconds of the game because of how fast you can paint over enemy ink. The 4 other modes are locked to only competitive ranked games, but they're the better modes in the game anyway, so if you want to get better quickly, this is probably where you're gonna find yourself playing. The matches themselves last from 3 to 6 minutes, depending on the mode, which is very helpful to Splatoon's overall design. Say you want to play video games but you only have 15 minutes to sit down and do so. Other shooters have 15 and 20 minute matches, so you don't really have a whole lot of time to even finish one game. But with Splatoon, you can play almost 3 separate games of any given mode in the same amount of time. And the fact that these modes are never focused on how many kills you can get allows for beginners to find ways of winning a match that is not purely based on how good you are in combat, though killing the opponents does help with removing counterplay. This contributes to how spectacularly the game is designed. By keeping the matches shorter and more objective focused, you can keep the match more exciting with hardly any downtime. Some other ways that Splatoon's design stands out is with its visual and audio design. Splatoon is one of the more colorful and vibrant sides of the spectrum when it comes to shooter games, as some of them can be very bleakly colored. This vibrant coloring scheme, along with the fact that the teams you play against contrast in the color of your ink, allows for swifter identification of different objects and people in the game, as well as making it more exciting to the player themselves. And that's just the half of it. Splatoon is also good at making gurgling noises sound good with their in-game soundtracks, with works like Endolphin Surge, Tentacle to the Metal, and Split and Splat being some of my favorites. Not to mention the sound effects they use in the game are satisfying to hear, like when you hit a one-shot kill with a charger, blaster, or splatana. The fact that the soundtracks and sound effects are satisfying to listen to in-game is also a great way to keep players engaged with not just the gameplay, and to better connect them with the world these characters live in. Now, I'm not going to tell you all of this without telling you the cons of the game, because there is no such thing as a perfect game. For starters, the price. Assuming you already have a Switch, which is like $200 to $400 depending on the model, you would first have to buy the game, which is $60, and then you would have to pay for the online subscription, which is $20, and $20 more of DLC means that in order to enjoy the game to its full capacity, you'd have to pay $100 for all of its content. Not to mention the online connection is really buggy and not worth $20 a year. The game will sometimes disconnect you from matches that you started playing simply because somebody else's internet connection is horrible. And if you don't disconnect from them immediately, there can also be a bit of a desync while playing, which can cause game assets to lag. Another thing that's pretty bad are the maps that you play on. Some of them are pretty good with their flank routes and choke points, but most of them are still a chore to play on since they leave you with a lot of disadvantages when it comes to playing around certain obstacles, like other players. Though, if you're committed to playing the game, these things become really small when compared to all the great things this game does well. Splatoon is a series that stands out from the rest of the online shooters because of how both visually and audibly different it is, and because of its unique mechanics and design that allow the gameplay to remain fast-paced and unique to the players themselves. I have followed this series for a while now. In both offline and online, I have found it to be enjoyable and fun to play. I only talked about the main premise of the game, but there's so much more to it than just the online gaming that I could have covered. After all, what makes Splatoon special is that it isn't just a shooter game. It's a world that we can interact with and see what stories are written into each character, including ourselves. If you all want to see more, just let me know in the comments below and I'll take it into consideration. Also, don't be afraid to pop into streams every once in a while. They usually happen Fridays and Saturdays, and we have a pretty fun time there too. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on Splatoon, and have a good one.